very good afternoon to all the viewers. Welcome back to another episode of BW People HR Voices. Today, we're joined by Ms. Maria Rajesh, the CHRO of Embassy Group. She has helped set up operations across talent acquisition, performance and rewards, employee engagement, and leadership development. As the CHRO of the Embassy Group, she's the core to the people initiatives across diversified businesses of the group. Prior to joining Embassy, she was with the Aditya Birla Group and PSI Data Systems. Firstly, welcome, Maria. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Savi.
So for all the viewers, today we're going to discuss upon a very unique topic, the inverted employee-centric approach. So Maria, can you just explain or give an overview of what this approach actually is? And how is it different from the traditional approach that we have been following since years?
So basically, an inverted approach is the role of the HR changes with the needs of the organization, and it's more agile and employee centric.
Right.
Below are I would say some of the ways in which the role of the HR might evolve, along with the new responsibilities of HR professionals might take on, would be an employee experience management, a talent management, learning and development, technology and adaptation, DI initiatives. These are a few which I can think of, in terms of the inverted employee-centric approach.
Right. So what significant difference have you seen at your organization when you've actually used this approach?
So basically in talent management, I would say the HR professionals adapt numerous ways and techniques to manage a flexible workforce, which includes full-time employees, freelancers, and contractors. So this involves talent acquisition, onboarding, performance management, and for a diverse and often remote workforce. Just to give you one of the examples of the points which I had called out, right? Also, in terms of learning and development, I would say HR plays a very crucial role, in continuous learning and development of HR professionals. Should design training programs that align with employee skills development. Also, in terms of technology adaptation, where technology can facilitate the inverted approach. Communication tools, the role of tools, like Microsoft Teams in fostering collaborations and communication analytics, feedback platforms, data analytics can help track employees' engagement and satisfaction. Also, when we talk about employee experience management, which I had called out as a first point when we started this conversation, the role of HR is more focused on enhancing the overall employee experience, right from recruitment to offboarding, so it's a complete cycle of an employee. So hence all this is really the key role for any human resource to evolve in the responsibilities as a professional.
Right. So how do you think organizations can strike a balance between giving employees a voice in decision making and along with that maintaining operational efficiency? Because especially after the pandemic, we're seeing that employees, they don't shy away from giving their opinions in the organization. They want their opinions to be heard loud and clear. So can you explain that?
Yeah, striking a balance between giving employee a voice in decision making, maintaining operational efficiencies and productivity is essential for creating a healthy and an engaged work environment. This can be done by creating a supportive work environment and a clear communication system. Components of supportive work environment could be flexible work arrangements, flexibility in work hours, or locations can improve work-life balance. Mental health and support, importance of mental health programs and policies that reduce stress and burnout. Learning and development, the significance of offering opportunities for skill enhancement and career growth. Leadership roles in the inverted approach as well. So these are some of the things which come on top of my mind, to say, to talk about right now.
So you've shared these initiatives. What could be some KPIs or let's say metrics that you use to evaluate these initiatives, and how has the outcome been significantly different from when you were following the traditional approach?
So the traditional approach often involves in a strictly hierarchical and centralized decision making, while the inverted approach values collaborative decision making, trust, and employee autonomy. Right? Embassy Group actually over the years has built an organization that values its employees and has created an ecosystem that provides them with the great opportunities to enhance both their personal and professional growth.
Right.
We are a people-centric organization. We firmly believe that the success of the company is always driven by the happiness of our employees.
Right.
Most of the things that are spoken highly about embassy have stemmed from the culture that we have, be it the flat hierarchy, open door systems, down to earth management team, encouragement and willingness to explore new ideas, recognizing top talent, objectively driving performances, to quote a few and much more. Okay. While we have people from diverse backgrounds, these systems and processes have been embedded in the company from its values. So it
Hmm.
basically comes from top down.
Right. So, do you often face challenges such as biases or prejudice against women, or let's say against the junior associates? How do you handle those as leaders? Sometimes you must have faced challenges in terms of biases and prejudice that comes. How do you tackle these challenges at workplace against women, or let's say against the junior associates that are working at the organization?
So, Savi, I would say maybe we are one of those lucky organizations that we really do not have such issues which have cropped up to be some major concerns for us to tackle.
Right.
Because I think from the time of onboarding itself, the entire employee experience which we give, from the time we start sourcing a person, so even the talent acquisition team, when they're even reaching out to a candidate for a particular profile, the conversations which starts from there are seamless, so there is no disconnect at all. Even
Right.
when we have our operations team, when they onboard them. So I I have never really come across being here for the last 18 years, to say that we've had an issue to say that we had issues with junior folks or any sort of, biases or anything. Nothing. I don't know, maybe we just got lucky, but I would want to believe that it's a culture which we have, inculcated in the last so many years and which comes from top down, maybe which has worked well for us. Even our policies, I just want to touch base, even our policies are so much speaks on the culture of the organizations. Our policies are tailor made for our people over here. It's not a copy paste from the industry. And at the same time, I would say some of our policies cannot be copy pasted in any other companies as well, because it would not suit the culture of those organizations. It's
Right.
meant to be for the culture of our organization. And I think we've been really well appreciated by our employees and even our ex-employees. Whenever they talk about, they highly speak about how our policies are in line with our culture. And hence, to answer your question, I don't think we have really had an issue to call out something to say that we did face something to, have an issue like that. Yeah.
Great, great. It's lovely to know that. When we talk about a traditional approach of an organization, the performance evaluation of an employee, it's done from top to bottom, which has been happening traditionally. But with this approach, how do you think that it has changed the performance management system? How can you effectively restructure this system now?
So I would say we have a process and a very systematic, and we have tools in place for that. So there is nothing which is basically in terms of manual interventions in terms of doing the performance management. So beginning of the year, we have our entire scorecards, which comes from the leadership. It comes from the I would say Mr. Virwani with his scorecards, and then it goes down, to the senior leadership, and from there, each one's scorecard is arrived at. So it's very clear what each one is supposed to be doing, and it gets signed off, by each one of us to say what is my KPI for the year. And it's from my KRAs or KPIs which goes down to my team.
Right,
So, and each one of us agree and sign off. So there is nothing which happens saying that as a leader, I decide this has to be the KPI for my team, and that's what you have to drive it. It's not. There is a sign off, there's a discussion, there's an interaction which happens, and post that it gets loaded in the portal, right? Whatever the portal we have. We also have continuous feedbacks which happen to the employees. We don't just wait for performance management itself to be, a forum to give feedback. We have continuous feedback during reviews, and then we have a very formal feedback, or I would say a mid-year, which
hmm,
happens. It's only to say, okay, our KRAs or KPIs were set up in April. Now we are 6 months from there. Where are we on it?
right,
So it's a very formal interaction, communication or interaction which happens, where I'm very clear as a team member saying that yes, I have achieved this three, and these are the other two I need to back up, and I have another 6 months. And when my manager gives me feedback saying that these are things which have gone well, and these are some of the things which you really need to pull up of your socks, or you really are way off. So it gives me a sense saying that I have another 6 months to prove myself, right? But if this feedback never goes to the people, doesn't go to the employees, then it's only at the end of the year you're trying to tell them you have done nothing for the year. And I don't think it's fair on any employee to give a feedback after 12 months. So the feedback on performance management has to be continuous, because it helps each one of us to improve in what we are doing when there's a continuous feedback. And feedback is not just about, if you're not doing something well, feedback is also appreciation, and
Right.
which is very, very important, because that's the motivating factor. End of the day, it's not just salary and, awards and bonuses which motivate people. Even on the ground, when you appreciate their work, that itself, a pat on the back, calling up in a forum, in a meeting, saying, hey, this was a very well drafted email as well, if it's going externally, or this is very well closed project, that itself is more than enough for an employee to be self motivated, to be happy, to feel belonged. So I
Right.
would say that is the annual performance appraisal system which happens should capture all of this, and it cannot be isolated.
Right. So, speaking along the lines of feedback, in this approach, definitely the feedback that comes from employees is also very important so that the organization can, understand what are the gaps in the system. So, what are some of the strategies or the tools that you employ at your organization? Or let's say, what could be some reporting mechanisms wherein you're getting your feedback from the employees?
So I would say one of the platforms is basically we do try and do surveys. We try and do Gallup surveys.
Hmm.
With most of our entities, we do 360s. It's not just like how we would want to do a customer survey. It's not just that. Our employees also are internal stakeholders. So these are, I would say, the top two, three things which would come to my mind. One thing is a Gallup survey, which basically has the clear 12 questions, which answers, which covers almost everything what an organization would need. We also
Right.
have a 360-degree, which we do, which comes from the managers to the peers, to the colleagues, and the subordinates. That's an overall, and we do it mostly with external vendors or consultants, so that it's not biased,
Right.
because we do. But then at the end of the day, that communication also which happens, right, when the manager, when we speak, so these are one part when we are talking about when we do it externally. But as managers also, if the team people, when you interact with them, I would say we have a very matured leadership team, or we have a very matured set of people, who are able to sit across and understand. If I say something and if I get a feedback, I know it's a feedback which I need to think and evaluate, and it's not like it's my way or the highway. And
Right.
that's one of the reasons I will not say, Savi, that we do not have problems, or we do not have had issues where there are times where managers may not accept the feedback, but then there's a larger way of how to make them see things, right?
Right.
A lot of times, how you give feedback, it's not what you say, it's how you say, right? You
Right.
can, the feedback also, it's how you articulate that feedback when you want to give the feedback, right? So it's all how you put it across to the person for them to have that acceptance. There have to be facts with it. It just can't be hearsay. There have to be facts saying that in this a particular projects, this could have been done in a better way. Not that this has gone bad, but it could have been more successful if these other parameters also were added. So I would say holistically, it starts from within, where the respective managers, the team, as a team, you get feedback, receive and give feedback, and
Right.
to also understand, to have a non-biased thing. We do this external surveys as well.
Right.
Right.
I
Correct.
agree completely.
Sorry.
But when we talk about the leaders transforming with this approach, it is important to train them with the new skills and the traits that, if for a listening leadership, it's important to upskill
Correct.
themselves. So, what kind of new skills or traits the leaders need to develop for this approach to be successful?
Shift in leadership roles is an inverted employee approach, right? So Embassy Group follows an open door policy that enables all employees to access the leadership team, irrespective of one's designations or business verticals.
Right.
Facilitate and coach. Leaders should support and guide employees rather than micromanage them. So that is, I would say, at Embassy we do not have a system where people breathe down your neck to finish a project. That space is given. You're allowed to make mistakes and learn. And
Hmm.
so a facilitator and a coach is very important, because um, all of us have gone through that. We've also made mistakes and learned.
Hmm.
And the hand holding what we do when we what to say facilitate and coach our teams is that it's okay if you've done a mistake, but do you realize what is the mistake? Why was it done? So it's more to make them understand why the mistake was, then making them feel guilty, right?
Right.
So mistakes are not repeated. So that's sort of a guidance. And most importantly, I would say is empowerment. Leadership empowers employees to make decisions at embassy, to be honest with you, within their scope of work, of course. Alignment with values. Leaders should model the organization values and cultures. Now, I should model the values and cultures when I talk about it. My team should also see me doing that. It
Right.
can't be that I behave in a particular way, and what I'm trying to tell them to do is in a particular way. So you definitely have to be a role model to your team. When we talk about culture, values, what is expected out from the team member, and which I said in the beginning, everything stems from top down, right? So it is important to groom the people to the next level in the same way.
Very rightly said. So most of our viewers, they're HR professionals, they're employers and employees. What would be your last piece of advice to them?
So I would say empower people, give them that space to learn and make mistakes, help them in their decisions. It's important that they might come back to you to make a decision that somewhere where they are caught, but instead of giving your decisions directly, ask them what would their decision be and guide them through that decision.
Right.
So making decisions and giving it to them to drive is very easy, then they will never be able to learn to make decisions, because most of the time we leaders are afraid that a mistake of our team will reflect on us, right? But then we need to be a little big hearted, saying that we've come that long way, and maybe we had a manager who allowed us to make mistakes, and we've learned our journey the same way. So we should be fair to the team itself to allow them to learn the journey the same way and support them in every step. That's
Very well said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria, for joining us today. We had a lovely conversation. Thank you once again.
Thanks, Savi. Thanks so much.